The World Cup final is played in front of 60,000 people inside the stadium and 2 billion more watching on screens around the world. The player standing in that tunnel has been working toward this exact moment since they were 5 years old. They have sacrificed things that do not have names in any sports psychology textbook. And in about 30 seconds, they are going to walk out of that tunnel, and every single one of those sacrifices will either make sense or haunt them for the rest of their lives. This is what it took to get there. Every player on the pitch Sunday started the same way. A backyard, a park, a cracked concrete pitch between two buildings with goals drawn in chalk on a wall. A ball that was too flat, and a kid who did not care. The World Cup final does not begin on Sunday. It begins 20, 25, sometimes 30 years earlier, in an ordinary place that nobody was filming, where nobody knew what they were watching. This is your life at every level as a World Cup final player. Level 1. You are 5 years old, and you have already figured out that the ball behaves differently depending on how your foot connects with it. Not from a coach, not from YouTube. From the specific repetitive experience of kicking a ball against the same wall hundreds of times and noticing, the way only children with unlimited unsupervised time notice things, that the angle changes based on where your foot makes contact. You are running an experiment. You do not know it is called that. You just know the ball does something interesting, and you want to see what else it will do. Your parent watches from the window. They are not watching a future professional footballer. They are watching their child play, which is what parents do. And there is something specific about the way you move. An ease, a naturalness, the absence of the awkwardness that other children your age have with their bodies that makes them keep watching a little longer than they plan to. They do not say anything yet. They just watch. And then you do something with the ball that you have never done before, a specific, small, improvised movement that produces an outcome you were not fully expecting, and you look up from the ball with the expression that only children have in that specific moment. The expression of someone who just discovered something and wants to share it with whoever is nearby. Your parent is nearby. They wave. You go back to the ball. This is level 1. The whole story is already in this moment. Level 2. A scout sees you play in a tournament, not a major tournament, a regional weekend competition with 20 teams and a trophy that will sit on a shelf in a school corridor for 3 years before someone moves it to make room for something else. But the scout is there, and he sees you. And 3 weeks later, you are standing at the entrance to a youth academy with a kit bag on your shoulder and the specific expression of someone who has arrived somewhere important and is trying to look like they belong before they have fully decided whether they do. You belong. Within a week, every coach at the academy knows your name. Not because you are loud, not because you are trying to impress anyone, because you do something specific with the ball that makes other coaches stop what they are doing and watch, which, in a professional youth academy, is a response reserved for a very small number of children per generation. You are one of those children. But here's the thing about being a naturally talented child in a professional youth academy that nobody tells the naturally talented child. You are now competing against 60 other children who are also the most talented child in every environment they have ever been in. The specific pleasure of being the best player on the street, in the local club, in the regional tournament, that pleasure is gone. Replaced by something more complicated. The daily, granular, unrelenting work of being evaluated against people who are exactly as gifted as you and discovering that the gap between the ones who make it and the ones who do not is not talent. It is something harder to name and harder to develop. Level 3. The list goes up once a year. The academy posts it in a corridor. Or it comes through an email. Or it is delivered in a 15-minute meeting with a coach whose expression tells you the answer before he has finished the first sentence. The list tells you who is retained for next season and who is not. You learn, at this level, that talent is not a guarantee of anything. Because you watch children who have trained alongside you for 3 years, children who you have seen do things with a ball that looked impossible, children who wanted this with every single thing they had. You watch them not make the list, and you cannot explain it, not fully. The margin between the ones on the list and the ones not on the list is sometimes genuinely impossible to articulate in a way that satisfies anyone, including the coaches who made the decision. You make the list. You are not purely relieved. You are relieved and guilty and aware for the first time that the path you are on is not fair. It has never been fair. And the people who do not make the list did not deserve what happened to them any more than you deserve to be spared it. You go back to training the next morning because the only alternative is not going back, and that is simply not an option you are capable of choosing. Level 4. You sign your first professional contract. The day this happens is the day you have been imagining since you were 5 years old, with a ball against the wall and a parent watching from a window. It does not feel the way you imagined it. It feels larger and more frightening and oddly incomplete. Because signing the contract is not the achievement, it is the permission to attempt the achievement. And the dressing room you walk into at your first professional training session contains players who have been here for a decade, who do not automatically respect a signature on a piece of paper, and who will determine through the daily unspoken language of professional football whether you actually belong here or merely have permission to try. You earn your place, slowly. Not in one training session or one match or one moment, slowly. Through the accumulation of hundreds of small, unspectacular, fully professional moments in which you do exactly what is required, at the level it is required, without the safety net of being the most talented person in the room. Then one day a senior player passes to you in a training drill and nods when you do something with it. Just nods. You understand what that means. It means more than the contract did. Level 5. Your phone rings. Not from a friend, not from your agent with a transfer inquiry. From a number you do not recognize, that turns out to be a member of the national team coaching staff. You are in the squad, not the starting 11, not guaranteed a minute on the pitch. In the squad, which means your country has decided that you are among the 26 best players they currently have access to, which sounds like a narrow category until you consider how many players, across how many leagues, across how many seasons, will never receive this call. The first national team camp is nothing like you imagined. You are surrounded by players you have watched on television since childhood, players whose posters you had on your wall at the academy, players who are, apparently, also human beings who eat breakfast in hotel restaurants and complain about the hotel Wi-Fi and argue with each other about music on the team bus. This is somehow both reassuring and destabilizing simultaneously. You play your first international match as a substitute. 22 minutes, you touch the ball 11 times, you do nothing remarkable and nothing catastrophic, and you play 11 touches of professional international football, and when you sit back down on the bench after the final whistle, your hands are shaking, and you do not fully know why. Level 6, the World Cup. The squad bubble is a world inside the world, a hotel, a training facility, a bus between them. The same faces every morning. The same pre-match preparation routines, the same tactical meetings, the same video analysis sessions that break down your opponents in more granular detail than you have ever previously needed to consider. The outside world stops mattering inside the bubble, not because you stop caring, because the bubble is designed to produce that effect. Because caring about things outside the bubble divides the specific kind of concentrated attention that tournament football at this level requires. You win your first match, then the second, the knockout stage. Each win bringing a clarity of purpose that gets sharper and more focused as the tournament progresses, as the field narrows, as the specific weight of the remaining matches becomes something you can feel physically in your body before the warm-up even starts. You are in the semi-final. Then, somehow, in a match that goes to extra time, that produces 2 minutes of a kind of concentrated human emotion that most people spend their entire lives without experiencing, You are through. You are in the World Cup final. Your country is in the World Cup final. You are one of 26 players who will represent everything your country is and everything it wants to be on a single Sunday afternoon. You call your parent from the team hotel. They pick up on the first ring. You do not say very much, neither do they. You don't need to. Level 7. 3 days before the final, in the last training session, you land wrong. Not badly, not a sound, just a landing that sends a specific signal from your ankle to your brain that arrives before the pain does, a signal that in any other week of your career would mean ice and rest and 24 hours of monitoring. This is not any other week. You say nothing. You complete the session, you ice it privately. You lie to the physio about the level of discomfort on the pain scale in a way that is technically a lie and also the most rational decision you have ever made, because the alternative, declaring the issue, being assessed, potentially being considered a doubt for the final, is simply not a sentence you are willing to be inside of 3 days before the biggest match of your life. The physio knows. Of course the physio knows. They have been watching professional footballers manage and conceal and minimize for their entire careers. They treat the ankle. They say nothing about the pain scale. You train on it the next 2 days. It holds. You will not know until after the final whether this was disciplined or foolish. You will deal with that then. Level 8. Saturday night in the team hotel. The preparation is finished. There is nothing left to prepare. The tactical meetings are done, the video analysis is done, the warm-up plan is set, the starting 11 is known. Tomorrow is simply the thing that tomorrow is, and there is nothing between now and then except time. Time in a hotel room, the night before a World Cup final, does not move at a normal pace. You lie on your bed and your brain, which has been usefully occupied with preparation for weeks and now has nothing left to prepare, decides this would be an excellent moment to show you every single worst-case scenario in full cinematic detail. The missed chance that decides it against you. The error that nobody will let you forget. The cramp in extra time. The penalty that goes the wrong way. You get up, you sit by the window, you think about the backyard, the ball against the wall, the parent at the window who waved. You think about the academy cut list and the names that were not on it. The players you trained beside for years who wanted this exactly as much as you did and who are watching from somewhere tomorrow, because the path to a World Cup final is not only about what you gave, it is also about what you were given that other people were not. Luck, timing, a body that held, a scout at the right tournament on the right Saturday. You think about the ankle. You think about the 22 minutes off the bench in your first international, the shaking hands. You eventually sleep. Not enough, more than you expected. Level 9. Sunday. The tunnel. This is the moment that no preparation, no psychology, no coaching staff pep talk, no visualization technique, no career's worth of professional experience fully prepares you for. Because the tunnel is not just a physical space between the dressing room and the pitch. It is the exact boundary between everything that has already happened. The backyard, the academy, the cut list, the first contract, the call-up, the tournament, the ankle, the sleepless Saturday, and the 90 minutes that will happen next. On one side of you are your teammates. On the other side of the tunnel, waiting in their own parallel version of this exact moment, are the players from the opposing team. You can hear the stadium, not clearly, as a wall of sound, the specific physical sensation of 60,000 people in an enclosed space, anticipating something. You look forward. The pitch is visible at the end of the tunnel, the grass, the lines, the goals. This is the pitch you have been imagining your entire career, not this specific stadium, any final pitch, the abstract idea of the biggest stage, the place the whole thing has been building toward. And here it is. Completely ordinary and completely overwhelming at the same time. The anthems begin. The sound from the stadium changes. Your anthem, your country's anthem, every word of which you know, have always known, that you have heard at every level of your career, but which in this tunnel, in this moment, with this specific combination of exhaustion and readiness and controlled terror, does something to your body that it has never done before. You walk out. Level 10. 90 minutes. They are the longest and shortest 90 minutes of your life simultaneously. There will be moments you play beautifully, moments where everything you have trained for arrives in your body at once and produces something that people in the stands will describe to other people for years. There will be moments you play poorly, moments where the weight of the occasion is slightly heavier than the preparation, where the backyard version of you would have made a different decision faster. There will be extra time, possibly. Penalties, possibly. There will be a final whistle. And when it blows, one of two things will be true. Either your team has won the World Cup, in which case what happens next is a kind of joy that does not have an exact equivalent anywhere else in human experience. The specific, total, physical collapse of every structure you have been holding in your body for weeks, dissolving at once, replaced by something that starts as relief and becomes euphoria and settles, eventually, into something quieter and more permanent. Pride. The specific, earned pride of someone who went all the way. Or your team has lost. In which case, you will sit on the grass of a World Cup final pitch, surrounded by the confetti of another country's celebration, and you will process a feeling that also does not have an exact equivalent anywhere else in human experience. Not just loss. The loss of the specific, unrepeatable thing you spent 25 years building toward. A thing you may get another chance at in 4 years, or may not. Because this sport runs on bodies, and bodies have their own timeline that is not always the same as yours. Either way, you were there, on the biggest stage in the sport, on a Sunday in July, in front of 60,000 people and 2 billion more. You were one of the 26 players who got to say, I played in a World Cup final, and no final whistle, no result, no scoreline, and no goalkeeper who saved the wrong penalty takes that away. It is yours. It was always going to be yours from the moment the ball went against the wall and you figured out that the angle changes depending on where your foot makes contact. You just did not know yet how much it would cost to get here, or how completely worth it that cost would be. Every World Cup final player starts in the same backyard, with the same ball, and a parent at a window who kept watching slightly longer than they planned to. The distance between that window and this tunnel is measured not in years, but in everything that happened inside those years. The cuts, the contracts, the call-ups, the ankle 3 days before the final, the hotel room where sleep refused to come on Saturday night. Nobody sees any of that on Sunday. They see the result. But the result is only the last sentence of a story that started 25 years ago, and every player on that pitch has a version of this story that the camera will never fully capture. That is the story worth knowing. Whether it is France or Argentina holding the trophy on Sunday, somebody in that tunnel tonight earned it. Subscribe. Drop your prediction below. And if you want the full story of the man who has been to 2 of those finals, Messi, that video is on the channel right now.